As a teacher, we all know the struggle when we have a lot of students in front of us, a lot of decisions to make each day, and we're doing our absolute best to keep students engaged in the lesson, keep the lesson on track, and use the best practice of making data-based decisions. Unfortunately, sometimes data is hard to collect, or it can be hard to evaluate when we do collect it. One of the tools that we can use to make data collection even easier in our day-to-day teaching life is Google Forms. In this particular instance, I'm going to show you a course entry ticket. The intent of our course entry ticket is to do a quick check with every student just to determine what they're carrying with them for the day, what their general mood is, so that I can have a sense and connect with students who may be struggling a little bit more today. I also want to check in on their understanding from yesterday's lesson and see if there's anything that we can go further on or that they've had more questions on since we met yesterday. So that's what my course entry ticket is intended to do. My classroom instructional practice would be to have this available in a place where my students come in every day. In my system, we use a learning management system called Blackboard, and I'd have this available in my Blackboard course for students to come in, and part of my bell ringer each day would be to use our course entry ticket. The questions that I ask in my course entry ticket aren't anything too mind-blowing. Here you can see I've got 4 choices: happy or content, unhappy or sad, tired or disinterested, frustrated or mad. I'd just like the students to categorize themselves. Then I've got a question about your level of confidence in what we learned the other day, the day previous. Now, if you're the type of teacher who's going to come in here and update this daily, then you could certainly just type in whatever you need to type in without creating a new class each day. So for instance, yesterday we learned about topic sentences and concluding sentences in the same paragraph. So I could certainly type that there. Or as students come in, I could just have it written up on the board. In our last class period, we explored, please look at the board, how confident are you? From 1, I was not here or don't remember, to 4, I could teach that topic. And then the last question is, what questions do you have about yesterday's topic? Is there anything we should explore further? I'm really just trying to cue them in and see what might be lingering that I need to address first before I move forward. Setting up the Google form was quite simple. Analyzing the data, though, also needs to be simple for me to make the most sense out of this as a teaching tool that I'll use. And one of the things that I struggle with is that as a Google form is used over time, we get lots of data inside of it, but it's a little bit challenging to figure out what that data means. Let me give you an example. So for my check-in on how are you feeling today, on day 1, this would be very useful. I could see, okay, good, I've got 4 people, 3 people, 2 people. Unfortunately, I've been using this particular form for a week. And so I don't know what the 4, 3, 2, and 1 mean here. I simply know that at some point this week I had different students who felt that way. When I click on the drop-down, at least I can see who those students are, but I don't know when they were feeling that way. So that can be a little bit challenging. Then we get into the individual responses, and while this will give me a day-by-day certainly, and I can check the date, it isn't the easiest way for me to go through and check how students did. I need something faster for this to be really meaningful. In that, we have to delve into Google Sheets. Now, before I do that, understand that Google Sheets can be a little bit overwhelming for people at first. I'm going to do my best here to make them really simple. But one key rule of all data is the idea that we have to be able to key on or have a consistent data point that we can sort by when we use data. One of the things you'll notice here is I don't ask my students for their first or their last name. I certainly could. There's no reason I wouldn't be able to add that here. What I'm using, though, as my key on piece is this, their email, because this is a forced response from the computer, which means the computer is going to type in the email that they use. And that means it's accurate and something I can sort by to be able to make sure I'm using the right student and viewing the right student's data. Often students might type in a nickname or they might type in their name and spell it wrong, and that's going to make this really challenging for me to sort my data when we get to Sheets. When you first do this, it'll say Open in Sheets. I've already done that, but I'm going to click View in Sheets, and here we are. Now, one of the first changes I made, and I want to point you out to that in a hurry, is that I actually changed the format of my timestamp. Timestamp is when it was submitted. And when we first get this from Google, it looks like this. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. I can figure out the date and the time that it was submitted. But I'd like this to be a little bit more user-friendly for me as a teacher. I want to look at this in a hurry. And so I'm going to use the 1, 2, 3 button, and I'm just going to change it to date. This makes it a little bit simpler for me to look at. The other thing I may want to do, just to make this simpler for myself without getting too in-depth, is to sort. And I can sort the sheet A to Z. And this is going to put my 2 dates together because, as you can see, I've got 2 responses for each day of instruction. I've got a pretty small class. So with that said, now at least I can see the whole response from left to right for this student, and then the whole response from left to right for this student. Now, that might be enough for you just to use those simple sort A to Z functions. But Google's got a couple other tricks up its sleeve that are easy to use and that can really help you make the most out of this particular. So one of the things that we're going to do right out of the gate is we're going to filter our data. And to filter my data, I'm going to start by selecting this box here, home box, between the A and the 1. That selects all my data. Now from there, we're going to put on our first filter. I click More, and I'm going to create a filter. What I'd really like to do is after the students complete the entry ticket, I'd like to be able to look at it very quickly without a lot of other data around to just get a quick pulse of my students. And right now, with all the other days in the way, that can be kind of problematic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, now that I've got all my data selected and I'm working on filtering, I'm going to click this drop down. And instead of filtering by sort A to Z, I'm going to filter by a specific condition that works for dates. Where it says none, I'm going to scroll down. My date, and it gives me this great option, is today. I'm going to click OK, and we're going to go from 11 entries down to 2 entries. And both of them are today. I love that. So now I can look at just today and really get to the very specific look that I'm needing here. I wish there was a way to save this. And in the world of Google, there is, and it's called a filter view. So we're going to click this drop down here, and I'm going to click Save as Filter View. And we're going to call this one Filter by Today. Now, when I click out of this and I turn my filters off, all my data comes back. But when I want to just look at my specific filter views, I can select Filter by Today 1, and I can get to exactly the data from today. What's great is I don't have to rewrite this. It's ready every time I come in because I've selected Filter by Today. Another thing that might be helpful for you is to be able to, at a glance, know a student's readiness or understanding level. Here I asked, in our last class period, we explored whatever it is, how confident are you in your understanding of that topic? And the numbers can be helpful. Numbers aren't quite as quick a view as colors are. So we're going to add something else called a conditional format. Here we're going to go under the Format tool, and we're going to go to Conditional Formatting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select a color scale here. We'll make this simple. My minimum value is going to be changed to 1. Number 1, and 1 in red means I'm not necessarily sure they understood it. My number 4 is going to be a green, because remember, this is where they said they could teach it. And my midpoint, and I'll have to set this for myself, is going to be a 2. I'm okay with 3s and 4s, but a 2 tells me you're still struggling a little bit, so we'll put a yellow there. Good. Now, what I can do is I can take a look at this using my filter views. So we're going to jump into my filter view now. And think about yourself as a teacher. I'd like to filter by today. okay, based on today, it looks like I can go to this student for support teaching others, and this student seems to be struggling a little bit. And I might be able to pick my groups very quickly out of that alone. So, being able to sort based upon color is a really valuable way to do this. I also think that at times, just looking at words can be a little bit overwhelming. So I'm going to apply our same conditional formatting to our how are you feeling today responses. So what we're going to do is this. We're just going to add some individual responses for each color. I'm going to keep these pretty consistent. But when the text contains the value unhappy, I'd like that to be blue. Good, we'll add that one. I'm going to add another rule. When the text contains the word tired, I'd like that to be this pink color. That means all systems are go. That student's in a pretty good spot there. So here I've got 4 unique rules. And when you start to put those things together into the filter views, you get a much richer picture of how your students are doing for the day. Good. This student is doing quite well today. They understand the lesson. They don't have any questions. Pretty happy or content. But I've got another student that I need to go check in with today. Not having a great day. They're listed 2 in their understanding, and they don't understand, and they've got a specific question. I can make very data-based decisions about what I will do from an instructional perspective based on my quick filter views. And if I get in the habit of using this each day in my classroom, each day I'll be making better decisions about where students are, and I'll have a better perspective of where each student is, not just a gut feeling, but an actual response from each student that'll help me decide where to spend my time supporting student learning. So hopefully that helps you understand how you can use Google Forms and Google Sheets to quickly make data-based decisions in your classroom that are meaningful to you. Thanks so much for your time.